Welcome to our podcast, Breakthrough Conversations. I'm Gloria Lybecker. I'm a seasoned leadership, growth, and development expert, and I have a passion for empowering individuals to unlock their full potential. I specialize in guiding aspiring leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, and those seeking personal and professional development on deeply transformative journeys. As a coach, I bring a unique blend of strategic planning and empathic support, nurturing leadership skills, enhancing team dynamics, and navigating complex challenges. My mission is to inspire and guide individuals to shine as leaders, not only within their organizations, but in every aspect of their lives. I truly enjoy helping others to embrace their leadership journey with confidence and purpose and to live a life they love. And now I'm delighted to introduce you to a man I highly recommend, my co-host, Coach Pete. Pete helps men and women ages 20 to 70 who are stuck in negative patterns get out of their own way to make positive changes. He brings a diverse background in coaching, counseling, group leadership, sales, marketing, advertising, plus community organizing and social justice work to his coaching practice. Pete is also a father of 2 adult sons and a husband of 47 plus years. So all this life and work experience has given Coach Pete a broad, rich, diverse set of skills he brings to his coaching practice and clients. Coach Pete's purpose is helping people discover and live their life purpose. And his mission is to provide guidance to people seeking positive change to live the life they love. When we met, Pete and I realized we share the common theme in our coaching practices for people to live a life they love. So let's start off today, Pete, with how can changing our perspective impact our daily lives and interactions?
Well, first, thanks so much for including me in this, Gloria. I'm so excited that we've met and we're forming a collaboration, and I'm just so impressed with you and happy to be with you. What was your question again?
Oh, let me back it again. I just wanted us to invite people to start to step into what it is like to have a perspective shift. Yeah. So
Yeah,
can changing our perspective start to impact our daily lives and our interactions with life and with others?
I think that's such an important question and key to coaching. I know it's key to my coaching, and I know it's key for your coaching approach as well. Because we all human beings, we get locked into sometimes a rigid way of seeing the world, of getting stuck in our views and perspectives. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is from a man named Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's no longer with us, but he's still teaching me. And one of his quotes is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And to me, that's at the heart of what you're asking right now or bringing up right now. And in our coaching practice, if we can change the way we look at things, wow, it opens up all new ways of being. It really does, on any level, either very personally within our own individual lives, our own views, but even socially and politically as well.
Yeah,
It's really that key question, making that shift in how we look at things can change everything.
definitely. One of the things I've noticed too is well, in my life, when I think I know something, that's all I tend to see. And when I can step back and I can start to recognize things I don't know, all of a sudden I can start to see more that I didn't realize that I wasn't seeing before. Yeah.
Totally, totally. We get locked in. We really do.
Yeah.
And and as much as our current lifestyles and current life in the modern world today, we think of ourselves as so connected, instantly connected and everything, but we're really not if it's through a narrow lens, if it's through the same way we always look at things, or we're dealing with the same people we always deal with the same views. It's very restrictive, and we need to, I think, really open that up. And I'm talking on a personal level, not politically, well, that's another question for another time, but individually, we need to open up and see new ways of being.
Yeah, so that brings up what kind of strategies or tools can our listeners begin to use in order to intentionally shift their perspective?
Yeah, it's another great question. And first, what I like to do with my clients is have them stop, take a breath, and really take a look within, because so much of what we're about is inside us. And you talk about perspective. Sometimes we don't even have that perspective about what's in our heart and
Mm,
what's always been there. So to just take a breath, stop, take a look, what's going on? What are my views? How are they formed? There's so many different ways of looking at it, Gloria, as you know, to make shifts in our lives.
mm,
Our viewpoints become habits. And you know, it's said, and I do believe this to be true, that we can change habits in about 30 days or so. But it takes some commitment to first look at the habit, and it can be a habit of viewpoint or habit of action.
mhm.
Stop and look at it. Is it serving us well? Do I want to make a change? And if so, then let's strategize together, coach and client, friend, family member and family member. What are ways I can open up and change? What is another way I can look at things?
Yeah, I really like that. And what it reminds me of is like when I'm coaching someone to look within, I invite them to look into their heart. Actually, I invite them to look a couple places. The first place I'll say, well, what's actually your current reality? So that's usually going up to your mind, noticing what's actually happening right here, like you said, an observation, and just name what's really obvious. And then I invite them to shift and literally shift. They can move their body one way or the other. And when they come back into their heart, now what is it they really want? What is it they really value? And that for me and for the clients I've led through this, that's a paradigm shift. So it's like a whole different frequency level of life. So I just really love that that's possible and that when people pay attention with intention, they can begin to navigate that. I wonder, do you have a personal experience where you experienced a change in perspective that led to a positive transformation in your life?
I just wanted to jot down. I love to take notes. When you said
Oh,
pay attention to with intention, I think that's a great phrase. So
oh,
thank you for that.
sure.
I'm stealing it from you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. So do I have an example for myself of making a shift?
Yeah.
I actually have two. I'll try to be quick with it. One happened many, many years ago when I was in college, I think I was about 20 years old in my junior year of college at the University of Connecticut. And it was a major shift for me in this viewpoint. I volunteered to be kind of a pioneer in a new program that was developing. It was called Urban Semester. And I was in a country kind of setting campus
Mhm.
in the middle of Connecticut, and they took 8 students, 4 young men, 4 young women, 7 white people, 1 black woman, and they plopped us in the middle of Hartford, Connecticut, the inner city of Hartford,
Mm.
for an entire semester. We lived in 2 different apartments, and each of us worked in a different social service agency within the inner city.
Mm.
And oh my goodness, talk about perspective. Now, this
Wow.
had to do with, race and racism. I'm
Mhm.
a white male raised in the United States of America. I can honestly say that at the age of 20 years old was the first time I really looked at myself and said, oh my goodness, I'm white. Because I was in the middle of the black community, the inner city. It was all black,
Yeah.
mostly black and brown. And I never, it's one of the privileges you learn if you look into racism. One of the privileges as a white person in America is we don't have to think about racism. We just don't. Just live our lives. We don't have to contend with it. If you're a person of color, you have to contend with it. Sometimes it's survival. So that was amazing. And then living for a semester, working in the inner city. I worked at a youth program. It was amazing. And the professors came to our apartment, economics professor, sociology professor, history professor, and related their topic, their uh, expertise to the inner city and race and racism. And I found years later when I was approached for some money to donate to UConn, University of Connecticut, I asked the caller, I said, does urban semester still exist? And here it is about 50 years later, it's
Well,
still going on. Amazing program. So that shifted a
yeah.
major thing for me. It really did. That was one example. And so from then on, I've had a different view of
Mm.
racism in the United States of America.
I imagine that would be a real transformative experience for sure. Um, and it's something when you are really the predominant quote race, and then all of a sudden you are the minority. And when you've never been a minority somewhere, that can be kind of earth-shattering for some people. So when there is a challenging situation, um, how would you encourage others to be able to explore any other kinds of viewpoints in order for them to grow? Because you gave some good examples of how you grew in community and in education. But what are some other ways that you can share with our viewers?
Yeah, I agree with you when you said before you mentor your clients to look within their heart first.
Mhm.
That's where so much knowledge is that we tend not to pay attention to.
Mm.
All of what's inside us from the very get-go, from coming into this world,
Yeah.
is inside us and all of our experiences. That's what I truly believe. Every person we've ever met, every experience we've ever had, we store it in our head and in our hearts. And so a first step in making any kind of change or even observation is to reflect and look within
Mm.
and try to open up and see what's inside, what viewpoints maybe could use adjustment. So it takes self-reflection, I think, and taking a good hard look, an honest look
And
with
honest.
ourselves.
Mm.
And that's where coaching can come in, as you well know. I mean, I've been coached myself. I believe in coaching. I have a phrase that actually I borrowed from Bill Gates, Microsoft. He literally says, everybody needs a coach. And I really believe that. And I've used that my whole life, even before I became a coach. So that kind of guidance can really help because it's hard to do it totally on your own.
Yeah.
You know, we're busy living our lives and living the way we learned, living the experiences without reflecting. So meditation can help.
Yeah.
Taking time to just reflect, I think is really important. Don't you?
I do. And I really agree too with you. We need to be really honest with ourselves. And there's a skill set that people can grow within themselves, and that is the skill set to be able to make observations about what actually is happening. Because so many times, um, as human beings, we make assumptions. We try to fill in the gaps. And if we can stop filling in the gaps and actually see what's truly here, or what we truly are thinking or we are feeling, we can choose to step into that other frequency and make a different choice. It's not to deny that choice that we have. It's not because we have these fundamental patterns. They are there, but we need to just acknowledge them. And when we can acknowledge them, it can empower us. There's a Daniel Siegel is somebody that I like to quote, and he says, "When you name it, you tame it." And he's the one that coined the phrase neuroplasticity. So, we are neuroplastic. We can always change. And it's really important, though, that we're really paying attention to it in order to create that change that we want. So I'd like to maybe wrap it up with one more question about what are some of the common misconceptions about perspective shifts that you're aware of, and when people have these misconceptions, how is it possible to overcome them in order to really continue to have personal and professional growth?
Well, I think mostly it's the inexperience in reflection, the inexperience in introspection, really taking a look. We live in such a hustle bustle society. We have such pressures on us to achieve, to do, to act, to be. And sometimes we don't take the time to really reflect with some introspection and say, what's going on? What's happening
Mhm.
inside of me? What has happened and what's happening now? And that's with a coach that you can really team up with and trust, you can go there and you can find, what are your ways of being, your ways of points of view that you've lived your life with, and then what are the options? You said something before that's so key. You can't change something until you give it some perspective, until you really look at what is, what was, and then you can look at what can be. And I always love to bring people to their own strength that has always been there, because everybody is really strong. To be human and survive and navigate and live is strength, don't you think?
I do.
And
Yeah.
then to reflect on that, how did we learn? How did we make a change? How did we come to be who we are? And celebrate it, but also look at maybe what did I overlook, and ways that maybe I could have been different. I love to remind people of their strength and how they've handled things in the past as a way of saying, I can do it in the future. I can overcome. And sometimes it's very seemingly simple things. Like for me, I look at how I stopped smoking
Mm.
40 years ago as a way. I remind myself, if I did that, which is really hard,
Yeah.
all on my own, made a decision. I could tell you how I did it one day. It was kind of funny with a talk to myself in the mirror, literally. Do you want to? And I really faced myself. I can I can look at that and say, I overcame that kind of addiction to nicotine.
Yeah.
I can take on other things. I can take on anything if I draw upon that. And everybody has examples of that.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I also did the same thing. I very similar to what you did, which is fascinating to me, Pete. But when I quit smoking, I also needed to make that decision. And it needed to be a choice that came from my heart. I needed to really want it. And when we do that, there's something magical that happens from within us. It truly is. There's one misconception that I want to name, and that is that many people fall into what I see as a trap of magical thinking, of thinking that, oh, if I just think positive. And I just want to acknowledge that in my experience, that does not work. It's not, when you have a negative thought pattern, just because you now say, I'm going to have a positive one, it doesn't make it true. It's like an opposite. And our unconscious knows that we're just lying to ourselves. Because if I really think that, for instance, that I'm dumb, if I say, oh, I'm so smart, it's not going to make it better. It's going to make that old pattern stronger. But what's different, like we talked about at the beginning, when we can actually have a shift of perception, we can elevate ourselves into the position of our highest and best self. And when we do things, when we take action in service of the highest and best for our world, that's an elevation. It's not a shift opposite, it's an upper shift. And that's possible for all of us. And it's important to acknowledge. So I really enjoyed our first conversation, and I'm looking forward to more. This has been great, Pete.
Same here. I really enjoyed it, and let's talk more.
Let's do it.